In this video, we're going to be looking at the inverse function and more specifically finding the equation of the inverse function. So the learning goal of this video is by the end that we can find the equation of an inverse function. So first thing we need to know is what is an inverse function. So the inverse function, and this is some notation up here. We haven't seen this yet before. So we have our function notation f of x, or f at x. This little -1 up here is going to denote the inverse function. And the inverse function is the opposite of the function. So whatever value we plug in, it's going to undo what the function does. So we have our y equals f of x. In order to find this for today, what we're going to be doing, and we'll see an example in 1 second, we're going to switch the x and y and solve for the new y position. This is going to be our inverse function. So let's look at trying one of these. Our example is, here is our function, f of x equals 4x minus 8. And we want to determine the inverse of f of x. So we can think of this 4x minus 8, we can think of it back as a relation y equals 4x minus 8. And what we want to do to determine the inverse is we are going to take this and we're going to switch the x's and y's. So we're going to put x equals 4y minus 8. Now we need to get y all by itself. So the first thing that we would do is we would add 8 to this side and add 8 to this side. And we would get 4y is equal to x plus 8. Then the next thing I need to do is I need to get rid of this 4, so I have my y by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. These 4's cancel out. And I'm left with y equals x plus 8 over 4. And this right here is my inverse function. So the inverse of 4x minus 8 is equal to x plus 8 divided by 4. So from the last slide there, we saw that the inverse function, I'll write it over here, was equal to x plus 8 divided by 4. Now this one is saying find f inverse of 0. So this is still similar to what we did on the first day. This is our function notation. We're going to take this inverse function it wants us to sub into, and it wants us to sub in the value of 0 for x. So I'm going to take my f inverse of 0. I'm going to sub in 0 for x. I've got 0 plus 8, which is just 8 over 4. And I divide 8 by 4. So the inverse function at 0 is equal to 2. So to find this inverse, which is the main learning goal for today, this we did a while ago, is remember we need to switch the x and y and then get y all by itself. And that is our inverse function.